we have a look at the inside of Dragon this morning. This coming from over the shoulder of Commander Steve Bowen and pilot Woody Hoburg, looking at the crew displays inside the Dragon spacecraft. Dragon is an autonomous spacecraft and can fly on its own, and these crew members will be able to monitor its flight and can take control of the spacecraft if needed. Again, we are sending home 4 crew members today, the Crew-6 mission. The mission was commanded by NASA astronaut Steve Bowen. He's joined by Woody Hoburg, also a NASA astronaut, serving as the Crew-6 pilot. To Hoburg's left is Sultan Alneyadi, that's the Crew-6 mission specialist, as well as Andrey Fedyaev, Roscosmos cosmonaut, another Crew-6 mission specialist. And this crew launched on March 2nd, earlier this year, arriving at the orbiting laboratory on March 3rd. They are wrapping up their mission today, scheduled for undocking at approximately 6:05 a.m. Central Time. Currently, we're standing by for hatch closure aboard Dragon. Confirmation from our crew members aboard Endeavour. The Dragon hatch itself is closed, that coming at 4:19 a.m. Central Time. As you can see, all 4 crew members continue to get suited up. And again, that Dragon hatch closed at 4:19 a.m. Central. Our crew members on Crew-6, NASA astronauts Steve Bowen, Woody Hoburg, United Arab Emirates astronaut Sultan Alneyadi and Roscosmos cosmonaut Andrey Fedyaev, preparing to return home after 184 days aboard the orbiting laboratory.
SpaceX Dragon, we had successful intercom checks. That's 5.2 and 4.010.
It's Sunday, September 3rd, here at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. We expect Dragon to push away from the space station at 4:05 a.m. Pacific, 7:05 a.m. Eastern with our Crew-6 astronauts. The crew is currently suited up and in the Dragon, and the station hatches are sealed and in preparation for departure.
Standing by for undock burns 1 and 2.
All hooks open and nominal.
Copy, see the same.
And Dragon separation is confirmed.
At 6:05 a.m. Central Time, and after 184 days on the International Space Station, Dragon has departed the orbiting laboratory, traveling 256 statute miles over the Pacific Ocean.
Depart burn 0 complete.
And with the successful undocking, again, that coming at 6:05 a.m. Central Time, right on time, Dragon, Endeavour, and Crew-6 begin their journey back to Earth. We're still monitoring from the International Space Station Flight Control Room here in Houston, but to give us perspective from the other side of the operations, I'll toss it back to Gary and Kate in Hawthorne.
All right, thank you, Leah, for taking us through that. Yeah, we had physical separation right on time, 4:05 a.m. Pacific time, 7:05 a.m. Eastern time. You can see we're at a nighttime view as the station and Dragon pass over the Pacific Ocean. So we're just seeing through the middle window there, inside the lit cabin inside the Dragon, as well as the navigation lights, starboard being green and port being red, as Dragon increases its separation distance from the International Space Station. After the 2 undocking burns to physically separate and increase the distance from the docking ring, depart 0 will send Dragon outside the keep out sphere. Keep Out Sphere has its own set of rules, is a line about 200 meters away from the International Space Station, so we'll get right outside of that, and we'll wait towards Depart Burn 1. Depart Burn 1 will send Dragon outside the approach ellipsoid. You can see the graphic here. Dragon's trajectory will take it zenith. It'll take it above the International Space Station, and from there it will slow down until it executes Depart Burn 2, which allows the Dragon to decrease its altitude and get to a trajectory about 10 kilometers below the International Space Station in a co-elliptic orbit. For this particular trajectory to meet up with the landing location, the prime location of Jacksonville, Florida, the trajectory allows for 5 departure burns. So we'll see that executed over the next 17 hours until splashdown. We do have a correction to that splashdown time. We're aiming for 12:17 a.m. Eastern Time, which is 9:17 p.m. Pacific Time. And that's again off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida. We hear Depart Burn 1 is complete and nominal. That's a good Depart Burn 1. Again, that sends a trajectory of Dragon outside the Keep Out Sphere and approach ellipsoid. We'll continue our coverage until Dragon exits the approach ellipsoid, which will end joint operations between the Dragon and Dragon teams here in Hawthorne and the International Space Station Flight Control teams in Houston.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop. Depart Burn 1 is complete and nominal, and with that, you are go to doff your suits per procedure 4.012, and I'll go ahead and take the cameras external. And just a reminder that ground will be deactivating the big loop following exit from the approach ellipsoid.
Copies moving into suit doffing, spacing for the cameras, and thank you, ISS. It's been an amazing 6 months. It's Crew-7 and 69 Soyuz, continue Expedition 69 and into 70. Enjoy your visit, and we'll talk to you back on Earth.
And Dragon Station, we copy. We're going to miss you guys, but it's good to see you go and get back to your families. Great job on the mission. Godspeed, and we'll see you splashing down safely here in about 17 hours. Great job.
So again, the crew has doffed their suits. It allows a little bit more comfort as they begin their journey, which will take more than 17 hours from the time of undocking to the time they actually touch down in the Atlantic coast. Getting some views from inside the cabin now. This is fantastic. So we get these views when we pass over some of the ground stations here on Earth that provide the video straight from the Dragon capsule. So on the far left there is Andrey Fedyaev, and in the seat next to him, to his right, is the commander, Steve Bowen. To his right is the pilot, Woody Hoburg. And then on the far side of the capsule from this view that you're seeing is Emirati astronaut Sultan Alneyadi. You can see they're in their launch and re-entry suits, and they entered that even before our coverage started and performed a successful leak check. So really, they're just waiting for these next series of events, including the claw separation, trunk separation, and the deorbit burn.
Yeah, you can just see, I love this view because you can notice the previous missions that this Dragon supported in the form of the mission patch stickers that are located there just over Andrey Fedyaev's shoulder, kind of like right above Woody's head from this particular view. This particular capsule is the Demo 2 capsule, the Crew 2 capsule, and the Axiom 1 capsule. So this capsule has been through this 3 times before. This is its fourth space flight. And I love that we are able to document those previous missions inside the capsule as a little nod to history.
We do have deorbit burn start. You can see it on their displays, actually. You can see those thruster firings on the left display there. So a quick recap. Within the last 10 minutes, Dragon jettisoned its trunk and initiated the deorbit burn. For those operations, NASA and SpaceX closely coordinate with the United States Coast Guard to establish a safety zone to ensure public safety and for the safety of those involved in the recovery operations, as well as the crew on board the returning spacecraft. Multiple notices are issued to the mariners in advance and during recovery operations, and Coast Guard patrol boats are deployed to discourage boaters from entering the splashdown zones. We want to stress to the public the need to respect this safety zone. Recovering a spacecraft from the water is a hazardous operation, and any other boats interfering increases the risk to the astronauts in the capsule, the teams working to recover them from the water, and the safety of those that come too close. For the safety of the crew and your safety, we recommend you sit back and watch, as we'll be bringing you the best possible views of our astronauts' homecoming.
Right now, Dragon is flying itself, so all the crew has to do is stay strapped in their seats and keep tabs on things. Great view there of being able to see exactly what the crew can see with respect to those Draco thrusters firing. We're now within the atmospheric entry phase of the return for the Crew-6 crew. Once again, the plasma buildup on the exterior of the capsule results in our inability to command or communicate with the Dragon capsule during this time. This is a great graphic indicating the trajectory. This is an ascending trajectory that Dragon is taking. So as Gary just said, over the Gulf of Mexico, across the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. So if you're tuning in from Central Florida, head outside right now, look up, because this looks like our first live view from the WB-57.
That's right. This is a high altitude aircraft that has thermal imaging, so we're able to get some of those views of the Dragon vehicle in the middle of its entry interface. Again, we're about 4 minutes in. We have a tally-ho on the vehicle from the WB-57. And actually maybe about 5 minutes in at this point. So maybe a little bit more than 2 minutes. Again, there's some variation in the predicted 7-minute time period. It's not exact. We might hear a little early, a little later.
There's that streak I was just mentioning. That's a live view, not thermal. This is heading towards the Atlantic coast of near Jacksonville, Florida. So a beautiful view, such a striking visual that we have for these nighttime splashdowns.
Recovery teams are in position off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida. And we are still targeting our expected splashdown time of 9:17 p.m. Pacific, 12:17 a.m. Eastern. We only have about a minute and some change of this blackout period anticipated. And again, there's some variation on when we can hear from the crew.
So what you're seeing on your...
Dragon, SpaceX, comm check.
So at this point, we're going to hear SpaceX Core begin to hail. As Gary said, this blackout period is estimated. So we're now beginning to reach out to the crew to see if we've regained that communications capability.
Dragon, SpaceX, comm check.
What you're seeing on your screen now is a live view of the thermal cam on the WB-57.
SpaceX Dragon,
And we hear Crew-6 from inside the cabin on the back end of the blackout.
Copy, Dragon. We see a healthy flight computer. Expect automated chute deployment.
SpaceX Dragon collected.
There's our live view of the crew, our first view of them on the other side of that communications blackout. At this point in time, they are re-entering through the Earth's atmosphere over the coast of Florida, heading towards Jacksonville, Atlantic coast. Up next will be the deployment of the drogue parachutes, which should happen in about 2 minutes, just over 2 minutes.
SpaceX Dragon copies, receive it soon.
All right, so that call out, just letting the crew know that they can expect to have the initial parachute deployment, that is the drogue parachutes, and that those typically deploy about 18,000 feet. At that point in time, the capsule is going around 350 miles per hour. When the drogues are deployed, they're traveling around 350 miles per hour. At the time that the main parachutes are deployed, just seconds later, they'll be going around 120 miles per hour.
Drogue pyros have fired, and we have good confirmation of drogue shoots. 2 drogues.
It's a view from inside the parachute bucket.
Dragon, nominal descent rate and recovery team reports a visual on 2 healthy drogues.
SpaceX Dragon copies, that's good news.
Should see drogue chute jettison here momentarily. We'll see those 2 chutes that you see be released from the capsule, just like so, and release the 4 parachutes, now deploying.
At this point in time, Dragon has saved all of its propulsion systems and is now has already terminated that nitrox suit and cabin purges. Those were helping to keep the crew cool during the reentry. Looks like we have 4 very beautiful and healthy main parachutes.
Dragon, we see a nominal descent rate on 4 healthy mains.
SpaceX Dragon copies, and SpaceX Dragon coming up on 1,000.
So there's that confirmation.
Copy, 1,000 meters.
Confirmation of those 4 healthy chute deployments. Now standing by for splashdown. At the point of splashdown, the capsule will be going about 15 or 16 miles per hour. Continuing to decelerate from a speed of about 120 miles per hour.
800.
So we will now begin.
Copy, 800.
To hear Commander Steve Bowen call out the altitude as they approach the water surface.
That is again in meters.
Landing in water is simpler and provides more margin against unlikely parachute issues. We had to learn how to make Dragon waterproof, but once you do that, it's very much a rinse, review, reuse type process.
600.
Copy, 600.
600 meters, and the descent rate is as predicted, meaning we're targeting that splashdown time in about a minute.
Live view of Dragon Endeavour with the Crew-6 team members on board, being held up by 4 beautiful main parachutes.
Dragon, we see 400.
We're now about 400 meters above the ocean surface.
SpaceX Dragon 200 braced for splashdown.
Copy, braced for splashdown.
Again, the seats have been rotated in a position to take the loads of re-entry and parachute deployment as well as splashdown. The crew is braced. We are inside 100 meters.
Dragon Endeavour continuing its slow descent. There we can see splashdown on screen. Those parachutes are then cut and released. Dragon Endeavour has now returned home. NASA astronauts Steve Bowen, Woody Hoburg, Sultan Alneyadi, and Andrey Fedyaev.
SpaceX Dragon splashdown. You're in water rough riding.
Copy, splashdown, and we see main chutes cut.
After a 17-hour return journey from space, Crew-6 is home.
Thanks, SpaceX Endeavour. We greatly appreciate all the support from all the initial training through the launch, throughout the mission, keeping us abreast of all the status of the vehicle, and all the support all the way down. This has been incredible. Greatly appreciated. I look forward to working with you all again.
Copy all, and you've got a room full of happy people here. We've got some systems to verify safe before we give the boats a go to approach. I'll be back with you on that topic in a minute.
SpaceX Dragon copies. We'll just enjoy the wallowing here. Might be seething through. Maybe I'll be napping soon.
We do have a public affairs officer on recovery vessel Megan, Courtney Beasley, who is standing by and watching the operations unfold and providing some coverage from there. Courtney, can you hear us?
Gary, I have you loud and clear. How do you hear me?
Loud and clear. Courtney, we were very jealous, and we were talking a lot, Kate and I, about the views of Dragon's re-entry through the atmosphere and the plasma trail and the landing, of course, in the Atlantic Ocean. I can't imagine a person who had a better view than you. From your perspective on recovery vessel Megan, how was that landing?
Gary, it was absolutely beautiful. We were about 1.5 nautical miles away from the landing zone, and we had a great view from the front of the ship. We were actually able to track the spacecraft. Starting when it broke the horizon, we heard the sonic boom loud and clear and tracked the spacecraft all the way down through splashdown.
SpaceX
There's something
hypergol
beautiful
sweeps
about a
and
nighttime
unfired ordnance
splashdown.
checks
The
nominal.
only thing lighting the
Rigging
sky
is
up
in
tonight
progress,
was the moon, the
and it's
stars,
approximately
and Crew-6
25 minutes
returning
until
back home
capsule
to Earth.
lift.
We did just hear a call out indicating that the sniff checks were successful, so the close approach team now has the green light to begin climbing on board the Dragon capsule, so we should see the recovery continue along. But I want to hear more from Courtney with her bird's eye, or with her live action view.
That's right. Yeah. Back to you, Courtney. We just wanted to pause for some of those communications with the crew and just follow along on the action here. But really want to understand what it's like there. You got some beautiful views. We are seeing, some of the seas. I think that we're tracking about. We're tracking sea states and wind, and we were talking about weather quite a bit leading up to today's landing. From your perspective, how is the weather out there?
Yeah, Gary, it's about 80 degrees out here right now with fairly clear skies. Like I said, we were able to track that spacecraft pretty good tonight. About 9-mile-an-hour winds out of the east. The waves are considered to be rolling waves, so they're not choppy, but they are pretty big and more spread out rolling waves. But weather-wise, I think the crew will like what they feel when they get out of that capsule today and take their first breath of fresh air back here on Earth.
Just to get some appreciation of what it took to stage the recovery forces and be prepared for this moment, just really moments after Dragon splashed down. We saw some of those fast boats rolling out to make sure that they were getting the crew as quickly as possible. Can you give us a sense of what it's taken to make sure the recovery vessels were here at this moment?
Yeah, absolutely. Our journey actually started several hours ago in Jacksonville. The MedOps teams and the recovery director boarded the first helicopter, and they were the first group to arrive on the ship about 4.5 hours before splashdown. So those medical teams took the time to get everything situated on the ship and ready to tend to the crew. And about 2 hours before splashdown, they deployed the fast boats into the water. I was actually on the second helicopter out, and we landed on the helicopter pad on top of the vessel about an hour before splashdown. And all of the teams have been hard at work since we touched down on the boat to get their various disciplines ready for Crew-6 to arrive home.
Excellent, Courtney. And last question before we let you go is we're seeing some of the recovery personnel on the Dragon capsule preparing for its eventual lift onto recovery vessel Megan. What can we expect to see in the next few moments?
Yeah, Gary, so once the crew is out
Copy. We
of
also
the
have you 5 by
capsule,
5.
they'll be
Boats are working on
transferred over
you
to the
and
med
rigging
bay,
up the
where the
vehicle.
crew will
I'll get back
them
to you
checked out
closer
by
to
their
capsule
medical
lift.
teams, and we'll have the opportunity to take those spacesuits off and get comfortable back here on Earth. And then, of course, they'll run through those medical checks. They'll get back on the helicopter and head back to the airport where they'll board their planes back to Houston to begin their post-flight period. You're probably getting a better view than I am right now, so I'll let you walk through that. But back here on the ship, once the crew is off, they're not the only ones returning from space today. we'll actually stay here a little longer with the cargo team since there was International Space Station cargo returned on this flight. So once we get back to the airport, the cargo teams will begin doing cargo processing, taking photos of all of the articles that were included in the cargo, and they will pack all of that into box trucks that will take them back to various NASA centers. But Gary, an overall beautiful splashdown tonight, and I hope it was the same for you back in Hawthorne.
Absolutely, Courtney. We've been getting some fantastic views. Thank you so much for that report. That was Courtney Beasley out on the recovery ship, providing live coverage from the landing site just off the coast of Jacksonville. We're back in the action now, seeing some of the views from the recovery vessel and the recovery operations team, including helicopters, fast boats, jet skis, and of course, we're getting views from some of the ships that are standing by waiting to actually pull Dragon out of the water.
So at this point in time, the Dragon capsule has safed all of its systems. Mission Control did a systems check to make sure that that was true and accurate. They gave the fast approach teams the green light to approach and begin the rigging process, which is what we are now seeing underway. Additionally, they have recovered the parachutes from the water. So those were, we were able to see those being dragged onto a boat. And what we have now is there's one individual that we see kind of like a spider monkey crawling all around the capsule and attaching the necessary rigging, the straps. These are what will help to stabilize and lift the Dragon capsule out of the water and onto the recovery vessel. For tonight's operations, we are using our Atlantic Coast recovery vessel, Megan, and we, in hopefully in probably like 30-ish minutes from now, it kind of varies depending on the sea states, which, as we can see, a little bit more waves than some other missions, but still well within the limits for recovery, really probably unfazing to the individuals that are out here doing the work as they train extensively for these operations, whether it's daytime or nighttime. That is the actual, the Dragon's nest that we will be lifting the Dragon capsule onto. The lifting mechanism, it's kind of hard to tell right now, but that almost house-like structure over the end of the aft end of the boat will actuate downward, and then the straps will be used to lift the Dragon capsule, and then the whole thing will actuate back into the orientation that we see it here to help secure, or to place it and to secure the Dragon capsule in that nest. Dragon now in the air, the hydraulic lift being activated, and will be utilized to center Dragon on the nest there at the aft end of the vessel. I love this view because you can see the state of the heat shield. It did such incredible work during atmospheric reentry. Dragon Endeavour now placed into the nest of our recovery vessel, Megan.
Dragon, I'm noticing the cabin lights are off. I'm wondering if you had them off specifically for re-entry.
SpaceX Dragon, we did, and you turned them on us. We were enjoying the nice calm lighting. Wait, you turn it back off again. Good. We're enjoying the lighting. We have to see what's going on outside this way.
No worries on the lighting. Fine with the lights off. I imagine your re-entry was pretty amazing. Side hatch opening should be any minute now, and I think that's about it for me working with y'all tonight. It's great to see you back. Steve, Woody, Sultan, Andrey, happy to have you back home safe.
And we're happy to be back, and we look forward to catching up with you again real soon. Take care.
You see the recovery team is open and waving to the crew. First humans that the Crew-6 has seen on the ground in 6 months.
Looks like we got some fist bump action, thumbs up. Seems like the crew is in pretty good spirits after their journey back home.
We're not getting audio, but I am getting reports that on the recovery ship there was a big round of applause from all the recovery team on recovery vessel Megan as soon as that side hatch opened for the crew, congratulating them on a successful mission and successful return home. NASA astronaut Steve Bowen, the first to exit the Dragon spacecraft.
I think I see a big smile on his face.
Helped up by the recovery teams.
Now being seated in a rolling chair to help move him back to the medical bay, where he will get a quick checkout with the flight surgeon.
And again, this is standard procedure.
We can see some applause happening on deck. Looks like our pilot, Woody Hoburg, will be the next to egress. We are now standing by for egress of the remaining 3 Crew-6 members. We can now see Woody Hoburg making his way, pilot of Crew-6, making his way down the slide. Looks like some excitement, possibly some more applause happening off camera. Remaining inside our mission specialists, Sultan Alneyadi and Andrey Fedyaev. Commander Steve Bowen has already egressed. Some more applause there on the deck of the recovery vessel.
There's Roscosmos cosmonaut Andrey Fedyaev being assisted by the recovery teams onto the rolling chair. He'll also be positioned over to the medical facilities. Last remaining crew member inside Dragon Endeavour now is Emirati astronaut Sultan Alneyadi, completing 186 days in space.
Got some happy waves there from Andrey. More applause. So once again, nominal operations are to assist all crew members to the medical bay. The return to gravity can be pretty jarring on the human body, so we slide them down a little Dragon fun slide, assist them into the wheeled chair, and roll them over to the medical bay. And just like that, the 4th crew member, 1 hour exactly on the nose since splashdown, has now egressed from Dragon Endeavour. Looks like smiles and waves and applause all around.
All right. All 4 crew members have egressed Dragon successfully. So now that Steve, Woody, Sultan, and Andrey are safely back home on Earth and getting checked out by the NASA medical teams and, of course, the international teams, we're going to wrap up our live coverage of their return. This all kicked off on March 2nd, 2023 from historic Launch Pad 39A at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. After a successful liftoff and separation from Falcon 9, Steve, Woody, Sultan, and Andrey made a 25-hour flight on board Dragon to the International Space Station. Since arriving at the station, they spent nearly 6 months as members of Expedition 68 and 69, executing science experiments, spacewalks, and repairs while aboard the orbiting laboratory. Actually, more than 6 months.
That's right. And their journey home began about 18 hours ago on September 3rd when they closed the hatch to Dragon and undocked from the space station at 4:05 p.m. Pacific time. Then, after 5 successful departure burns and a phasing burn to line up their orbit, Steve, Woody, Sultan, and Andrey rested for a few hours before waking up to prepare for re-entry this morning. We jettisoned Dragon's trunk and performed our final on-orbit maneuver, the 16-minute-long deorbit burn, at 8:24 p.m. Pacific time, 3:24 GMT, and that is what put Dragon on its path home to Earth. The spacecraft re-entered the Earth's atmosphere and slowed its descent with successful deployments of 2 drogue parachutes, followed by 4 main parachutes, and with final splashdown occurring off the coast of Florida near Jacksonville at 9:17 p.m. Pacific time, 4:17 GMT. Following that successful splashdown, we saw the SpaceX recovery experts move in really quickly and prepare Dragon Endeavour for its lift onto the recovery vessel. And just almost exactly an hour following splashdown, we saw Steve, Woody, Sultan, and Andrey make their way out of Dragon and into the recovery ship's medical facilities, safe and sound.
So after the medical facilities and medical checks, they'll catch a helicopter flight back to shore where they'll transfer to the aircraft that will take them home. Steve, Woody, Sultan, and Andrey will take a NASA plane for the short flight back to Houston, and later Andrey will fly back to Russia and Sultan to the UAE. They'll be reunited with families to bring an end to the mission. It's been an honor and a privilege to share their journey with all of you as we continue in this new era of human spaceflight.